Hi, my name is Al-Asaad, and in this video, I'm going to do part 3 of I installed and configured TFS, what's next. I already blogged part 1 and part 2. I don't have videos for them, but I found it way easier to do a video for part 3 and instead of writing a blog. In the first part, I showed how to create a team project collection and a team project. In the second part, I explained the concept of a workspace and why we need a workspace. And in this video, I will go through creating a new project in Visual Studio, add it to source control. I'll also explain how to add an existing project that you created before to source control, and then the concept of check in, check out, and get latest. So the first thing I'm gonna do is create a new project and add it to source control. Go to File, New Project, and then I'm just gonna select any project from the list. So I'm gonna just do just the first thing, which is a Windows Phone. The location is very important. We have to select the path where our team project is. In my case, my workspace is mapped to the My Team project under the CSC folder. So I'm gonna select that, and we need to make sure that Add to Source Control is checked. And then click OK. Now notice the plus sign next to the icons, to the file icons in Solution Explorer. That indicates that we're doing an add operation to source control. If I switch to source control tab, if the source control tab doesn't exist, you can launch it by going to Team Explorer and then go to Source Control Explorer, and that should open it for you. Notice that the same plus sign is the same icon, which is a plus sign next to the folders there as well. Now to check in the files that we just created, we right click on the solution and then select the check in option. Now in the pending changes window, we can type in the comments for our check-in. I'm just going to say that this is the initial check-in. And in here, notice that some files, like we have two groups here. The first group is the included changes, and those files in this category or in this group will be checked into source controller, to the source control repository, while the excluded ones will not make it there. And the reason they're not going to make it there because those ones are generated files or files that are for me as a users, like setting files, and we don't want to share my settings with the other user settings. Now, for any reason, if you want to include any of these files, all you have to do is make sure you check that file and then, for example, this one, and then click promote, and that should move it to the included changes. I'm not going to promote any files, and I'm just going to check in the files that Visual Studio detected. So yes, continue to check in those 12 items. Now notice that Visual Studio is giving me a change set number and tells me that it's that check-in operation has been successfully completed. A change set number is equivalent to a transaction number, the operation we just did. So if later on we want to go back and see what we did in that change set, we can look it up. And basically, if I click on that link, it basically says that in that change set we added, you see the operation is just next to the file name and it's an add operation. basically indicates that in that change set number or change set 12, we added those files. We can also get to that change set number by trying to find the history of a certain file or a certain solution. Like if I right click on one of these files and go to source control, I'll see another command called view history. If I click on view history, all I'm gonna see here is change set 12. If I modify the solution and then check it in, I'll see more than one change set here. For example, I'm gonna just change the program.cs file, and all I'm gonna do is just add a new line and then check in the file. Actually, notice here when I try to change the file, or once I modify the file, Visual Studio will contact TFS or the workspace and say I want to check out that file. A checkout operation means that you're notifying TFS that you want to modify the file, and other users will know that you are changing the file or you have that file checked out. Now, if I go back to Source Control Explorer, and try to find that file, the programs.cs, notice that it says that it has pending changes and it's an edit operation, and the user that has the file checked out or editing the file is the administrator. That's my username for this machine, so that's why it's showing administrator. If my username was Ahmed, it would have been Ahmed. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna check in that CS file. I'm just gonna say formatting and say, then click on check in. Now that's change set number 13. If I go back to Solution Explorer and I right click on programs and go to view history, now I see two change sets. One is an add. It was an add operation, which is the initial check-in, and that was my comment, the comment I entered the first time. And this is my second comment, which is the comment I entered for change set 13. And it tells me that it is, it chose change set number 13 and was an edit operation and the comments. And of course, and tells me which file it is. Now, something interesting here we can do is we can compare what happened between these two change stats. So if I select both of them, I have to select the first one and then hold the shift key and select the second one, and then right click and click compare. Now I'm gonna see the two versions and in the def window, and it shows here that this line has been added in the left side, and here is the new one. This is the new one on the right side. What can we do as well? We can also right click on the project, for example, and add new item. Let's say I want to add another class and I want to call it just my car class. And I'm not gonna modify it for now. I'm just gonna say, okay, I'm adding that class to the project. And again, like, notice that the plus sign, the plus icon, which indicates it's an add, we're adding that class to source control. But also notice that the project file has a check mark, which indicates we're doing an edit operation against that project. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do another check in to the solution. And I'm gonna say added the car class. Notice that like the project and the class will be checked in. Okay, and that's change set number 14. If I go back to source, to the source control, okay. Here it is. And I'll try to find the project here. Here it is. So this is my project. Now if I right click on the project and try to find the history, notice that it says here that in change set number 12 the file was added, while in change set number 14 the project file was edited. And again, you can do right click and compare. Okay, that's good. I'm recording. And notice here that there's a new file that has been added to the project script. Okay, I'm gonna close the diff window, and I'm gonna show the delete now. So if I click on the car class, and I decided that I no longer need that file, all I have to do is select it and then hit the delete button on the keyboard. You can also do a right click and delete. Now, and then I'm just gonna do a right click and on the solution or the project and check in. Notice that it's just gonna strike through the name of the file and to indicate that it's a deleted operation for that file. But again, we're editing the project file. So I'm just gonna say delete the car.cs class. Great. So now I'm going to show the concept of get latest. So I'm going to switch to another VM, and I have a different username. The username in this case, or the other user is TFS dev1. Now I already have Visual Studio Launch here, and I'm connected to the same team project. Now notice here that I don't have anything in my that project doesn't exist. That project I added that was added by the administrator user doesn't show up here. It's not there yet. So I'm just gonna refresh the branch here or the tree, and notice that it shows up, but it's gray. Gray indicates that the files are in the source control repository, but we didn't download them yet to our hard drive. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna do get latest on that folder. So I'm just gonna right click here and select get latest. Now when I do get latest here, now the files are no longer the files and folders are no longer grayed out. And I can click here on this hyperlink to open the folders in File Explorer. So now I can see them here. So I can just, if I want to just double click on the solution. Okay, I'm not interested. I'm happy to open it with Visual Studio. And yeah, and notice that our files are here for that project. Now, the same thing we did on the other end, we can still do here. Like I can still right click on the project and view the history. Like let's say I want to see what happened to that project, or who's the last person modified it or added it to the repository. Notice here that I can tell that in change set number 12, the file has been added, like the project file. It was edited in change set number 14, and it was edited again in change set number 15. Now if I double click on change set in here, I can open that version of the file, and notice here that in the tooltip that's the file is appended with underscore C12, which indicates it's change set 12. Can also right click on it and say change set details to open to see what happened in that change set, and you want just the details of that change set. When you open it, notice that it opens in Team Explorer, and it indicates, it shows what happened exactly in that change set. Like it says that all these files has been added during that change set. Now the last thing I'm going to show is how to add an existing project to the source control repository. I'm going to close this this solution. So now I don't have anything in here. I'm just gonna close all windows, close documents. Now to add an existing project, say switch to, the easiest way to do it is to switch to Team Explorer and then go to the Source Control Explorer. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a folder here. I'm just gonna name it my existing project, and again it's an add operation. Okay, and then I'm gonna open the folder I just created, and then I'm gonna select add items to folder, click on browse, and my project is under my documents, Visual Studio 2012. Projects, and I'm gonna select this one. Okay, I'm gonna select the files, okay, and then click finish. Notice the warning here just indicates that those files that are selected, or the ones that will be added to source control, will be copied to the working folder before they are added to source control. Okay, click finish. Okay, and notice that there's an add operation against those files. Now what I can do, I can open the solution from here. Basically what this one is saying is that we're trying to open a source control, a file that's under source control, but it's not configured to integrate with Visual Studio, and it's asking us if we want to do that binding now. And what that's gonna do is gonna create let's do the binding first, and that will create another file, the VSS SCC file, which contains some mapping information for Visual Studio to communicate with TFS. And what the next thing we can do is, like in here, we can just do another check-in operation. And that's change set number 16. So in this video I covered how to create a new project in Visual Studio and add it to source control, how to add an existing project to source control, how to do a check-in and check-out, and I also explained what that means, how to get latest, and how to view the history and the content of a change set and the difference or the modification that happened to a file between two change sets. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.